Hi. Um, so I decided to maybe share a little bit of my process for coming up with images. So I think that's sometimes the hardest thing that we do is to get inspiration to um, to find images that we might want to create. And I think especially now that we're kind of stuck indoors and doing all this, this is a good way to spark your imagination. Um, One of the things that we've talked about is things that you might want to consider when you're going to create an image. And remember at the beginning of the class, we had talked about props, wardrobe, theme. Well, we started with theme and imagery, but we also went into what it takes to put an image together. So you would look at locations and you would look at props and wardrobe and makeup and hair and all the things that create a character. Um, so sometimes what I like to do is just take one of those things, either like maybe theme, so try and think of a theme, or a prop, or a piece of wardrobe. And today, or a couple days ago, I was looking for something for us to do, and I thought, well, I'm going to start with a prop. Because sometimes to do a free association, we kind of did that before with our library shoot, though we were looking at location at that point. Um, if you start with a prop, you're able to extrapolate some images out of that. And so last Christmas, I got a really nice, brightly colored paisley umbrella, which has always been in the back of my mind that I'd like to do something with that umbrella. So the first thing I did was Google umbrella composited images. And I did come up with a whole bunch. I may go ahead and share those with you in like a slideshow or something, but I'm not going to do that now. Um, but it did give me a couple of ideas of what I might like to do. Not copying anything, but just kind of, oh, yeah, this person did that. Now, yeah, if I were to do something like that, how would I change it? How would I make it my own? So the image that I came up with was something really simple. I knew I could use my daughter. I could talk her into it. She hates posing for me now, but um, since we don't have anything else to do, she was okay with it. And so I wanted to show you the images that I came up with. I also wanted to mention that if you have not already done so, please make sure that you accept an invitation to our fictional photography class Facebook page. I think everybody is now has had an invitation, and most of you are signed up. But there's still a couple that are not. So that's this page right here, and I see Bill posted a couple of things. So we can keep some discussion going with that. So anyway, what I wanted to do. See if I hide it. Everything goes away if I hide it. Okay. So I put it up. And I'll just go to Photoshop. So the image that I came up with, let's see, put me over here. Again. The image that I came up with is something with an umbrella. Not really anything fancy. I started looking with at some images landscape images that I already had. I started with this one. I thought, well, this might be kind of interesting. It's got some fog in the background there, and I like fog in my images. I like that kind of atmosphere. It helps with compositing, I find, because I'm lazy. And so this was a field that I had photographed early in the morning, and all the light was coming from this area over here. So I kind of knew where my shadows would have to be for my model when I went to shoot. But I didn't want strong shadows. So I did take this picture of my daughter, and as you can see, it is quite out of focus. And I didn't realize that till I got in the house, put the card in my computer, and saw that none of the photos that I had taken. I don't know. I must have had my lens on manual focus for some reason. Probably when I was shooting myself, you want to make sure it's on manual, so that if you move, it doesn't try to refocus. Anyway, so I had a whole bunch of images just like this one that I thought, well, I don't really like the out of focus, but maybe I can use it. The image that I'm using of the landscape is not the sharpest. And so I did try and put it in there. And this is kind of what I came up with there. Not happy with it for a number of reasons. And we'll go through what I did here. So I started with my landscape. I did add in some contrast here with my curves. I wanted my blacks up because I knew that my model, her original picture, her dress is very, very dark. So I added in some contrast to my original picture just to, pop in some blacks there. And then I started working on the model. Now, as you can see, my model here, this was the picture that I used. Okay, and put a mask on her. Then I needed to, let's get this up here. I needed to desaturate her. I knew that right from the beginning. So I put a desaturation on there. I also wanted to brighten her because this was going to be very foggy. And I think I actually put the fog on right away. Where is that fog? It is. So I added fog in right away. These came in later to try and match her to the fog. Then I knew I needed to have some kind of directional light because I could see down here in my grassy area that there was some shadowing going on, and I knew that my sun was over here. So I did want to put some directional light. I had photographed her in the shade. So it was a fairly flat light, but there still was some directional light on her. It wasn't too hard to add it in, and I used a dodge and burn, actually just a burn curve to do that. So I made a curve, I took my shadows way down, and I brought the midtones down. Next, I decided to add a light, directional light. So I rendered a flare on a solid color black. Turned it into a smart object, and then added a lens flare. And that's this right here. I added the 105 millimeter prime. And that's kind of what it looks like. So when you put it on a black background, you can see the flare pretty well, and then I can actually move it to wherever I need it. So if I'm on here, I can move that lens flare. You can't, it's subtle, but you can see it. So what you do then, when you have it here, you change it to screen. So this is the normal mode. I have some other things going on here. Why? This is in 16-bit, and sometimes my computer doesn't want to catch up with it. But anyway, you switch it from normal to screen. There you go. And then that takes away all the black. So you just have the light. I knew I needed to add in a little shadow, so I added in a shadow right here at the bottom. And that's kind of where it was. Now, in looking at this, I am not happy with it. Because the first thing that I noticed once I started doing this was that she looks like her arms were cut off. I was having her hold the umbrella kind of in front of her and forward, backward a little bit. So this I was very not happy with. And I knew I needed to repose her. And then I also thought, well, since I now know she's out of focus, I'm going to reshoot this, and I'm going to have her arms out and in focus this time. So that is what I did. Now, before I did all that, because she didn't want to do it right away, so I thought, well, I'll still play with this. I did add in this dispersal image. So it's just a little technique. Yeah, my little guy is not happy with me here. Turn off this group. So this is a dispersal technique, and I'm going to put up a video to show you guys how to do this. It's kind of cool. It's not something that's required in any sense of word, but if you want to just play around with Photoshop a little bit, this is really fun to do. You can see my computer is not happy here. I've been moving around too much on a 16-bit. but this is kind of where I was going. And then I'm going to have birds, I think, probably flying out of these dispersed pieces eventually when I get to it. So let's see. Turn that off, turn this off, turn this off. So that's kind of where I was going with all of this. That's where I knew I was going to head. And then I did add a color. I was just experimenting to see what I might like. And so I added a color lookup table, which I thought added some nice green blues into it, teal colors. And then I did add a texture. Now, you do not have to add textures to your items. I know Bill had mentioned something about liking a really clean look on images. I personally use them all the time. Absolutely not necessary. I think they're really pretty and painterly, and I'm drawn to that kind of an image. So that's what I do in my own work. It's certainly not necessary for your work. But you do need something to pull them together overall, and really even just the color lookup table would have been fine, just something to pull out your images together. And I do kind of like this image. Even, let's see, put the dispersal back in there. I do kind of like this image. Even though she doesn't have arms, I kind of like the way it turned out. But I knew I needed to reshoot it. So what I ended up doing was reshooting. And it was later in the day, so the sun was very strong and very bright. I did not have good shade to put her in because I had to put her up against the outside of my house. And where did my other one go? Umbrella 2. So when I put her in here, so I was just going to replace her with the new model. And what ended up happening with that was not good. So I put her in here, and as you can see, she's very sharp. I added in the fog to see if I could blend her in more. It's a very different kind of picture. And because I had taken it later in the day, her shadows are very dark, very dark. I tried lightening her up a little bit. Pretty much doing the same things, trying to blend her into this image, and it just is not working. I love her pose. I think that's terrific. I really like the way that looks. But I do not like, that's my dog at the door. I do not like, she seemed very, I didn't have that dreamy quality that the other one did when she was out of focus. So after working on it all day yesterday, trying to get this to work in, not being able to get it to work, I ended up thinking that perhaps what I should do is change the background, because she has this strong shadow. She's in strong sunlight. I'm trying to use a background that does not match that. And as much as I love the idea of this background for this image, I think I need to go somewhere else. So what I ended up doing, let's see if it's on this one, I'm not sure, was trying out a different background. So I brought in I just went to Pexels and pulled an image that was of the ocean, that was kind of in the same perspective, and just to see if the colors and the shadows and everything worked better. And indeed they do. So that's when I decided I need to go to a different background. And I went with, let's try this one. And on this image, I started with, I went back to Pexels again and just looked for ocean images. And in this background, I thought was pretty nice. It was better than the last one I used. it's the correct perspective. And I knew that it would be because this is the original picture. And I knew that I could take these two people out of it and put her in. So, and the colors were nice and bright. I thought it would be fun. I could match the colors better with the brightness of the umbrella and I don't know, just work it a slightly different way. This is still a work in progress. So I think on the next video that I do, I'll let you know how that went and keep you kind of updated on what this process is. So my point here being is that really, if something is not working out, and I really struggled with this for several hours yesterday, if something's not working out, change it. Don't get stuck on that one idea because you never know. You know, it's like Bob Ross, it's happy accidents. Well, here's my happy accident. I'm hoping it turns into a happy accident. I don't know if it will or not. But in this case, I cloned out my people. Oh, the one thing I did think I liked about this too is, as you can see here, they have splashes at their feet. And I thought I might be able to use those splashes to camouflage my model's feet in this water, especially his, because I thought his is embedded in there and I could use that for hers. So to that point, I did take them out. I added her in. I wanted her over a little bit more, so I knew I had to do that. But I saved these because I knew that I would be using them for her feet. Now, she's actually backwards to what he is. He was facing towards the right. She's facing towards the left. But that's okay. My shadows are correct. Here's the shadows from the people in the picture, which I thought I could also use. I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. Haven't quite tried. I tried it, but then I kind of discarded it. I'm still working on the shadows. But I was able to put her feet in there. So I got her all situated here. Let's see. Oh, this was the reflection. So the other thing I liked about this image was in the original, I had his reflection here. And I thought that was a very realistic touch that I could use for my image because it kind of looks like the feet, almost like where hers are. Close enough, unless you really inspect it. So I went ahead and I moved those over here. It's not quite the same, but you know, most people aren't going to look at this real closely. I don't know. I might play around with it a little bit more and see if I can make it a little less obvious that it's Photoshopped. So I added my model, and that's kind of the point I'm at now. I think I added in some splashes. So this was the splash from the little girl's foot, and then another foot splash here. I'm still in the process of fixing all of this and making it correct. And then, oh, actually, I thought I'd gotten further on this. I did actually move it over and blend it in. I wonder why it's not. History. Yeah, I did, for sure. So as you can see, I blended it in here with his. So that's his, and then I just blended it in. And I'm in the process of pulling all that together and fixing little errors. You will see on here, I have a helper layer that I use to help make her saturation correct. So before, or her brightness, actually saturation. I used this as a, we had talked about this in class before. This was a brightness and saturation helper. It's just a desaturated, fully desaturated hue and saturation layer. So I could see that she was much more saturated than the background. And the background's pretty saturated. Or much less. She's darker, it's brighter. She was much less saturated. So I did go ahead and fix that with a hue, brightness layer for curves. And I just brought the midtones up in my curves. And And that is pretty much it. I always keep on top a blank layer that I can correct errors with. So there's a couple of errors going on here that I still need to look at. This area right here looks weird. I need to blend in her, because this part down here is from the dude. This part here is her. So I need to blend it. You can see there's a line there. There's another line here that's probably from some kind of masking. And I'll be able to fix that. There's another little light right there that I need to look at. So really, when you're zoomed in like this one I already fixed. Well, not quite. There's still a little bit of error here. But it had a line through it from a masking. So I just go through and I kind of keep, just make little notes here. So this one I know, I'm thinking there's a white halo right here. So I'm going to circle that. And up here in her hair, now I didn't go into cutting out her hair because she's going to be fairly small in this image, and I'm going to have some other things going on. So, but I do want to fix this up a little bit. There's a little bit of a haloing from the original picture on that. And that's pretty much all I see for now. As I work through the image, if I notice more, I'll always go in and just make those little notes on a blank layer so I know what I'm going to look at later. And that's pretty much it. I will keep you updated on this image so you can see how it's going. And that's it. Bye. Now, well, let's see. I know I always have to do this at the end. How do I fix this? How do I turn it off? Stop sharing.